Okay, I think we're live. Hi and welcome to The Skeptical Leftist, the podcast where I talk to a variety of people to spread critical thinking, progressive politics, and left-wing philosophy. And once again, I'm joined by my good friend, Damien Marie AtHope. And today we're talking Axiology.
Right, and everyone's like, yeah, what the heck is that? Well, actually, it's a philosophy that relates to anything you make a judgment about, which is practically every thinking you have in your entire life.
Right.
Now, so the thing is not that axiology is then doing something different. It's like being aware, and then you're able to use it better because you're already doing it. That's why this one guy goes, well, it sounds like you're trying to push axiology, so we have to learn it. I'm like, well, actually, if you understand, everyone thinks in this way, even animals. We think in the sense of value. We assess, is something good as opposed to, is this worth something else? Is this familial bond, important? People feel it more than just emotional. They feel because we can protect each other. So there's a feeling beyond just nurturing in a sense.
Right.
And so to me, axiology is, in a sense, like value or worth study, like logos, like to study value and worth and goodness.
Okay.
As in a sense, but it also is aware of those opposites, the, badness. Because if you're going to do goodness, you also have to know badness or evil or whatever you want to call it. So axiology is assessing both things of quality and things of lacking quality.
Right. Like a value and a negative value kind of situation.
It's actually just looking at all value, and thus it covers both sides in a sense. It doesn't.
Right.
So,
that makes sense.
Yeah. So the thing is more than just being aware. Axiology also reminds you, in a sense, the study of it, that there's more than one kind of value always occurring.
Okay.
So like Corey is a human, and I see him alive and feels pain and has thinking to be a dignity being. Dignity beings shouldn't be violated. And his value then is innate. He can't lose being a dignity being until he loses life.
Right.
And then once that is gone, then that is a body that then becomes culturally or socially, connected to people, but itself is not a dignity being anymore. So itself doesn't have innate value. It has what's called extrinsic value, which is like what something does.
Okay.
That's a different kind of something is value unto itself, and then something could be a value for what it does. Let's say that sometimes in capitalism, the opinion is that you're supposed to constantly produce value because its concept is not axiological. It doesn't start with there's something called innate value. And if it did, they would detach it wrongly to a commodity and not to a human being.
Yeah, because capitalism is tied so much to like the commodity value, right? Like,
which is axiology is like, okay, if I ask you that one car got crashed or one human died, which of them bothers you? The fucking human, right?
The human dying.
Right, but I'm just making a comment. So axiology knows that it's an error, that the capitalism... Oh, yeah, I don't get to focus on axiology, but I'm just saying, but I'm just making a comment. That's why I don't need another theory. I can immediately see capitalism and see all these problems it has because I assess the values going on, and I also anyway. That's how in a sense, values moving around, how you can utilize it and see it, and so axiology is like a lens or awareness that you have of what's going on, because it's all going on anyways. I mean, Corey was a dignity being whether Damien acknowledged it or not.
Right.
He didn't just start being because all of a sudden I was mentally aware that you exist and you're. So you already had it. I didn't need to validate it, but the reason why is because it's innate. You don't have to validate innate value. Innate value, it's already, you can't. And that's also there. What I try to explain too is axiology when it comes to morality is when you call someone a monster, what you really mean axiologically, if you're thinking clearly, is it's monstrous behavior. It is monstrous thinking.
Right. They've they've done something or said something or behaved in a monstrous
way. The
way.
reason is not to somehow remove them from their wrongs, but it's to see accurately, but that's still a dignity being. Right. The intrinsic value didn't change. What changed was the extrinsic, their behavior, the extrinsic value. Now, so everybody, in other words, this is to help people understand, like sometimes some things are different, but yet they're the same. So you agree, we're all, in a sense, intrinsic value, right?
Right.
But as I already said,
every living thing, right?
The intrinsic value of your spouse or your children or your girlfriend or boyfriend or partner or whatever, person you're connected to, even friends, let's say you have no partner, friends are still that, even though them and me both have, and Corey and everybody else in the whole 7 billion people are all dignity beings, and yet this one matters more to Corey.
Because of the
extrinsic value, right? Extra things beyond intrinsic. It's not because their intrinsic value somehow got bigger, did it?
Right. No.
Right. So I'm just saying about understanding. Well, I'm just saying it's real important, Corey, because to assess correctly axiological, you have to get the good ontology, which is the thingness of a thing. Its qualities, its attributes. So you have to get this. But the reason why axiology wants that is because it wants to know what's accurate, what is true, what is beneficial, what is good. Cannot know any of that if it's doing fake shit.
Right.
That doesn't work. So you have to look at things accurately. And that's why I'm saying you have to look at Corey loves his partner not because the value intrinsically has become more, but extrinsic to Corey, that bond extrinsically. In other words, here you have two dignity beings, both have equal extrinsic value, but this extrinsic thing is making the bond, not the intrinsic. Right. There's nothing to do with it.
Right.
Nothing.
Yeah, because like you said, like the person halfway across the world that I've never met in my life, they still have intrinsic value at the same level as
right. As Pam or like my wife Shayna, right?
Right.
Same intrinsic value.
Yeah.
You give it. So this helps you make this. People like, well, morality is confusing. Like, no, you're just not grasping all the values accurately. And that's why you talked about before. You said, can we do moral things, and make them true? Well, we can realize they're true once we realize the actual facts and then assess values accurately.
Right.
Right. And then grasp these multiple layered things. Then, of course, systemic value. Right now, extrinsic value is we're doing this thing together. But the systemic is that multiple people will be able to watch this.
Right.
Right. Maybe for years. Who knows? And the point is, so knowing that ahead of time, would that change how you offer your stuff? Well, of course.
Yeah.
You want it to be of higher value.
Yeah, which I suppose like something like a content that we create, it doesn't have like an intrinsic value. It only has...
And never could. Just grasp that. This is real important. It never, I don't care if you have 1 billion, whatever, that does not have intrinsic value. I don't give a fuck. 1 billion fucking rocks. Who gives a fuck? That's not more than a person.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't have value in and of itself. It has value only because of
extrinsic.
What we
See,
give
when you get used to classifying, it makes it, that's why it's fast. Once you grasp axiology, and then you realize, oh, Corey, it's not 10,000 or 7 million different people I have to think about. It's only dignity being. How many are they? In a sense, doesn't matter, does it? That is not a value that matters. How many, in a sense, because we're not assessing that. We're assessing their worth, and it's even.
Mm-hmm. And it's even. Okay.
And then once you understand, you can operate in the world fast because you don't have to question: is this person, is that person equal? You already know the answer, Corey. Yes, they all are. You know what I'm saying? So axiology has already established that, and then it's almost like building philosophical, in a sense, foundations.
Right.
Once you establish that, do I really need to go back and think about, do humans have value, Corey?
It's the established basis of everything.
It's established basis, but it also helps you navigate quickly of when you make moral choices, because you're like, your first thing you want to know is a dignity being involved?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So that tells you a lot. So that's why I to me, I want to show this, not just, it's not just though ethics. It's like finding truth. How do you know a good argument from a bad argument? It's value. Why does it have value or worth or goodness? Because it has the qualities that fit that. Okay. To fit a good thing. In other words, what is a good philosopher? Is it one that is stupid as hell and doesn't understand anything? Or is it one that has a better handle on thinking? You see what I'm saying? You know which, right. But is that intrinsic? No. That's why I said, me being smart, does that somehow make it? That's extrinsic stuff.
Right.
That has zero to do with me as a person. We're all equal. See what I'm saying? So it's not like, and that's another thing too, is some people are like, oh, Damien, it almost sounds like idealism. Like, that's because you don't grasp value that it sounds that way to you.
Right. Yeah, like I don't know what they would mean by that, like saying that it sounds like idealism, because
you could say that everyone has value, like oh, we need to matter, everyone matters. Yeah, well, axiology, they do. Are they a feeling, suffering being? And this is another thing too. People will say, well, Damien, then what do you say about animals? And I go, also dignity beings. Guess what? Right. Bugs too. Just because they're fucking small and because someone before said, well, I don't care about them, I don't see their face. That's the stupidest, most non-axiology thing I've ever fucking heard. Right. What in the fuck? That's not how you make judgments. You need to ask the question, what is the ontology? Is it a dignity being? Well, what is the qualifications of a dignity being? The reason I say dignity being, it's because it's something that can be harmed. So it gives it moral weight. It gives it moral responsibility. It gives it like a moral burden. Then you talk about virtue ethics. But see, virtue ethics and consequentialist ethics and utilitarian ethics, I feel a lot of times are focusing on the idea and not on the person making these choices, and then other people's value of why this choice is better than another, in a sense.
Okay.
So, because just like if you said, well, it sounds like virtue ethics, and I was like, yeah, but we don't have a standard. We don't. Right. We don't. There's no such thing as axiological virtue ethics. Axiology does a virtue kind of ethics, but there is no. This is how all thinking should be, Corey. In other words, like, an axiology would say there's no difference in doing a good moral judgment and doing a good reasoned judgment. They should be both accurate. Both of these, moral is just what it's applying to. Right?
Yeah. Okay.
Not that nothing has changed for axiology. That's why I feel like it's easy to learn my style once you grasp it, because you don't need to know 10,000 hours of logic or whatever. Once you grasp how to see value, how to assess value, and then utilize value, like what you understand, and to make better moral choices, or understand and grasp logic or whatever. Like, say, like logic. So there's one person who goes, well, Damien, logic's the best thing we have. And I go, that's not accurate. Because logic is a result of lesser thinking in philosophy. Okay. Lesser thinking got to logic. So critical thinking, like a lot of people talk about, which I just call reason. But critical, I'm like, why do you make a new word for shit that this other word is bigger and covers more and is actually doing that anyways? It's like they want to scientifically focus on one aspect of reason when reason really is important to learn, period.
Right.
Because in a sense, to me, right reason is logic. So logic, so that's how I see it in a sense. So, in a sense, activating event happens, right?
Okay.
In Damien's world, right? I open my eyes. I just woke up in the morning, right? The first thing I do actually is not think, it's feel my body. So or feel the environment, cold, hot, whatever.
Right.
That's why I feel like it's kind of like, I don't agree exactly that I think, therefore I am. You feel before you think. Feeling caused thinking.
Mm-hmm.
To me, feeling causes thinking. So the feeling of the environment, of being alive, you realize you're alive, right? Oh, I'm alive. So these feelings happen, and then that inspires thinking, in a sense. So thinking of those can be random. An axiological assessment in this state is not the same as a later state. That's another thing, maybe is complex. But so the first thing, it's almost like it starts because it doesn't know. You have to understand, like people before, like, well, when do you start? Well, axiology tries to understand all presuppositions.
Okay.
So, because then it knows really what's going on. It understands, like, through time, like how something is going on. So the first thought you have is not logic. It's not even reason, right? It's just random thinking, right? So like you're trying to catch your bearings, right? Random thinking. So, but no matter what, in a sense, you realize really quick that you're going to have some standard, right? And to me, this is where, like in philosophy, they do, pragmatics. So it's like the pragmatic theory of truth. In how I use them is, of course, going to be different than exactly it's used, but it's similar. That's a lot of my stuff, because I invent my own philosophy. A lot of it's similar. Even axiology, I have taken the axiology and I've made my own. So mine's easier and I think better because it's easier. Thus, you can use it better.
Fair.
The fucking harder you make something, the less it's effectively used.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I guess, so when you wake up, you're saying, like, you feel first. You feel first. And then you think, and then...
But those thoughts are not rational, right? So, but I'm just saying, if you didn't know the world, like say you know nothing, you start with, because that's how axiology likes to start, not with some, I know things pre-hand. It starts almost with, I'm going to assess what I understand. And then I will build on top of that, like an erection of value everywhere. The more I understand and more I see, it's like right now you're in the room, you can't see everything. You walk outside, you're now experiencing more stuff that needs assessment.
Right.
And then you meet new people, and then you have to reassess what's going on. You know what I'm saying? It's not like a stagnant thing.
Right.
So thinking wise, though, you haven't got to logic. That's called, in a sense, it's pre-logic. Pragmatics is not itself logic. It's basically saying, okay, we don't have anything, but I'm thinking this random thinking and maybe putting it in like some categories might be better than just random thoughts, right? Have you ever had people tell you, just write your ideas down and then you can build off of that? Right. Exactly. Thinking wise, that's the same thing that should happen. What starts with is you don't know, right? Just random thoughts. You realize that's why I call myself a methodological rationalist, because methodological is to follow a method. The first pragmatic of truth to get better accuracy is to understand that you have to have a standard of way you do things, because you end up with more accuracy and less mistakes.
Right.
So that's the first thing, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
You're not at logic yet, but you already know you have to have something. So now you get to reason. So right thinking, because that's what that is, pragmatics. That's not any great thing. I wouldn't want to build my whole worldview on it, but it helps you get started, and then you can test it, right? You can start putting things into groups and realize, like I did, right, with the religious beliefs. I start to see some going over the Americas and some, not in Siberia where it should be.
Right.
But the only reason is because I'm putting them down and assessing the actual things. And so that's what you have to do in pragmatics. I didn't know that, Corey, did I? Before I put it down. So the first thing I realized, right, Corey? So it's no different than how I think or how axiology does everything. I start with, I don't know. And then it builds that there's random thoughts that need to be organized. Right. And so that's what I did. I just put all the stuff on a chart to see what does it fucking look like? Is there a pattern or whatever? And then try to understand the cultures and the DNA and the languages and the, movements. So that's the same thing. So then you get to the second point, right? So now you have to, you have reason because in a sense, the pragmatics helps you get that. But in a sense, reason is not the external world, is it, Corey? Is it? Is reason the external world? No, it is not.
Is reason? It's related
to inside your brain, world. Right? It happens inside Damien's brain. You can't even see it happening.
Right.
Well, believe me, it is. But so it's inside Damien's brain. It's inside Corey's brain. Reason is in there, right? So it's not an external thing. And so that's where I use what's called the coherence theory of truth. So we started in pragmatic theory of truth. Of course, once again, I'm saying what I have is similar to that. It's not exactly that I agree with every philosopher or whatever, or maybe any of them. The whole thing. Because I probably agree with some of it. Because what the simplest way to understand coherence theory of truth is things can't contradict itself. Can it, Corey? I cannot say I think that Corey should be called both, Asawanda and Corey. And that's not your name.
Right.
And then I say, and those things have different value. How can that be possible?
Yeah, that's right? Like that. A thing is a thing. Right? It can't be a thing and not a thing or whatever.
Right. A and not A. Correct. Yeah. Right. So you grasp, but now you're moving to reason.
Okay.
You move past pragmatics. Now you're moving to reason. Reason is in your brain, right? Right. So the kind of thinking that relates to your brain is coherence theory of truth. I can debunk you, can I, Corey, if you make a logical fallacy, which is a thinking error or a reasoning error, which is relating actually to, I am saying it is a contradiction unto itself. You cannot say two words mean the same thing and they have different values. That can't happen. So A and not A. You can't say it's both A and not A. You can't.
Right.
No. So you don't even need to have evidence, do you, Corey? I don't need external evidence. That thing violated itself. Its reason doesn't follow. It's a logical fallacy because its reason doesn't, you can't get to, that's not doing reason. That's an error. Well, that's what they're saying in logical fallacy. They're actually addressing the coherence theory of truth.
Okay.
And then when we step outside of that, what is that? Then you're to empiricism, right? You're into the external world truth, right?
Right.
It's a different one than the internal world. And it's a different one from how we start things, which is pragmatics to me.
Right.
Right? Then we move up to the next one because right reason is logic. And logic can be applied to math. The math can be applied to physics. And physics can be applied to science, to chemistry and whatever else. So you're at the place of the kind of truth which is called the coherence theory of truth. That what you say has to be coherent with the real world. In other words, like you can't talk about fucking ghosts and bullshit if you can't show it. You can talk about it. You can say it has meaning, but its value is valueless until you show it's an actual thing. Right, Corey? Because non-things do not have value.
Right.
Right. Other than maybe extrinsic or systemic as stories or whatever. But, people like,
Right. Yeah. So like ideas, they would have like an extrinsic value or a systemic value,
but never an intrinsic one.
Right.
Or they could have systemic, true. Right. So the thing of Marxism, it can be beyond even Marxism because it's saying workers struggle. And that could inspire other people that are not Marxists to care about workers struggle. Right. So its value is beyond itself. In other words, its goal is, in a sense, worker emancipation into communism eventually. And worker emancipation, if it's explained to people like that are workers, generally that they're not totally against the concept. It's the poisoning of the well, of course, that society has done to the concept. And it's also some people, self-proclaimed communists, poisoning their own well with their behavior.
Yeah.
Or sometimes thinking. But so, to me, once you start grasping that Axiology is doing all this, right? So it has the same thing. Like there's 3 levels of truth to me, I explained to you, which is the pragmatics theory of truth. That's how things start. Then when you move on to reason, it's the coherence theory of truth. Then when you get to the external world, it's the coherence theory of truth. Or something close to, like I said, because to me, I put these together in ways that all the philosophers think is interesting, but it's only my idea and no one's ever done that. But anyway, I'm just saying, if it sounds confusing or hard, because no one else did this is me. But I see that because I do value, I can look at that and go, yeah, but that's what's happening. That's what we're doing when we get to logic, when we get to, I believe in empiricism. Right. And you believe that from a process that started in, I don't know. Right?
Right.
You certainly don't believe you're born knowing. Well, I guess some people kind of do.
Some people think they do.
Speaking of which, one of these times, Corey, we got to do free will. Because I also would like to have us maybe do it against, like you say, what all these philosophers say, and I'll explain why all of them are fucking wrong. and these doctors and all these fuckers are all wrong. So I would love to do but anyways, I know this is not what this is about, but someone argued with me recently, and I was like, but I don't want to go into all of it now, but I do want to do a thing on free will, because first, but just to make it simple, I can axiology look and realize there's a will. The problem these people have is free will or no will. I'm sorry, it's a black and white fallacy and doesn't match the accuracy to the lived experience, not to the medical experience, not to the psychological experience, right? Because psychology works. If it could work, it means people can change. If they can change, it means they have some kind of will. Anyways, I digress. Yeah. I'm just saying, it really, and the way that they have bamboozled people and say stuff, and Sam Harris, and well, hold on one second. So, they did a study, right?
Yeah.
Just to explain to people why it's so, as an axiologist, so mind-numbingly irritating. They have a study where they look at people's brains and then they make judgments of what they think they're going to make an answer, right? And then they say, oh, well, we were able to figure it out most of the time, so people don't have free will. And I go, okay, here's a bunch of problems. A, it's not been reproduced. B, right? It started with what, 100% accuracy? Well, no, it's 70 or 67. That is not 100%. So I don't grasp how Sam Harris has a 100% claim. There is no free will with a 67% accuracy and a non-reproducibility. And how about this, Sam? You made someone make a choice from what, 4 things, 4 options? You can get a guess. How about 100 options? Let me see this fucking guy do it then. You can do it 1,000 options, Sam. You'll start to impress me. How about this? Make it moral choices. Don't make it A or not A, which has no moral weight, no emotional weight, no connection to actual things I don't know will involves in, but somehow remove all will and then test, I don't know, IQ of A and not A, and then wonder why, we find this. People don't have will. It's just gross to me and fucking irresponsible. A fucking scientist that doesn't have, I don't know, lots of data to back it up. You don't. And even if you thought you did, even if you could point to me all these brain studies, I would go, yeah, it's pretty funny that there's addiction treatment and people get sober. Fucking crazy, because you said they can't have will. Because addiction is something that attacks the will and removes the will. And yet,
I think part of the thing that always gets me hung up is just like, I don't know exactly what people mean by will. Like,
well, so I like the moral. Can you do all these things I'm talking about? Are you the thinking, or is it Damien just compelled to have mental thoughts? Am I not controlling that?
Compelled by what, right?
So guess what? If you believe that, you should never thank me for being an activist. I'm just doing what the brain worm wanted me to do. Right? I'm not involved. I don't actually am trying to help anyone. I'm just doing what I'm compelled to do. It's fucking ludicrous. Anyways, we're gonna do a show on that one of these days.
Sure.
Damn sure, because so just to understand value-wise, why that would matter to me. You just said that people are not responsible for crime. You just said a rapist, we should not look bad at. We should see sympathetically that they can't. Damien, it's against their nature. What else could they do? For me, mm-mm. And also it's disempowering. Then how are we ever going to get people to do counseling? How are we ever going to get people to change bad ideas? I mean, if we're compelled to do everything like a fucking mindless robot that doesn't have a will, then we are really doing a hopeless endeavor. But I don't believe that. I know that to be not the case.
Yeah. Again, I'm not even sure. So when I think of like a will, like I think of like, okay, so I make decisions based on a variety of inputs, and I make decisions based on a variety of desires and chemical impulses and whatnot.
But just think, desire. That's a good one. Men desire sex, right? I'm just making a comment, right? Men desire sex. This is not even. I've seen stuff where even heterosexual men that see gay men having sex, they've done tests. Some will have a little bit of interest.
Right.
Because men really like sex. so it just the way, in a sense, but yet all men don't rape. Are we supposed to believe that only a few men have that rape, of course? Because remember, they have no responsibility in will, Corey. So their rape was just, so we'll have to suffer society that a few random people are just going to rape because their brain. We can't do anything about it. Why?
Well, not just because of their brain, though, right? Just because of the variety of impacts that they've had throughout their life, different influences.
See, now you're thinking about all kinds of other stuff, which is the emotional stuff, which once again, the emotional stuff is not you. Let's say I have PTSD, right?
Yeah.
I am not PTSD. I already talked to you. I want to do a thing on psychology too. So I am not PTSD. I experience PTSD symptoms. Does that mean those PTSD symptoms are every single moment of every single day on every single situation, Corey? No, they're not. Well, then sometimes I have more will than others. It's just, to me, it's so easily wrong the way they think. It blows my mind. But I understand, as an axiologist thinking in value, I see value clearly. And they don't. And they do it, and I feel too often, on these concepts that are not connected to the reality of what is going on. Just like, think of this. Did they test men and women? Are we sure men and women think the same, Corey, and make moral decisions the same? Are we sure? How about children? Did we do it at different ages? I want to see a whole bunch. Before you come out with, there is nothing. As a, scientist and a doctor, wouldn't you want to be more careful? I'm more careful with my fucking blogs than Sam Harris is with his opinion about free will.
Yeah. Well,
seriously.
I mean, you're not going to get me to agree with Sam Harris about much. So,
well, I'm not. Well, for me, Corey, as an axiologist, if he said something of value, I would acknowledge that. He just doesn't say many things of value to me.
That's just it.
So, and I think that people have an over bloated opinion of him because he is a doctor and whatever, and he championed atheism. Okay, great. So he thought one thing correctly, because the rest of this stuff doesn't seem like he's doing a great job.
Yeah, that's right.
But anyways, going back to axiology. So for me, when it comes to morality, also to make it simple and also harder. Right? So to me, there's two things. There's moral fear and moral love that are going on. Moral fear has to do, in a sense, with our fight or flight response and what I call our justice perspective. Okay. That we want justice, right? If I tell you this person committed a crime, and you're like, oh, well, that person has to go to prison for life, whatever. And I'm like, well, that person's 12. Axiology would immediately go, we need to reevaluate because the value just changed.
Right.
But, Corey, did the being change? Is a child more valuable than an adult?
It is not, actually.
See, because if you understand, and which value are we talking about, it's not different.
The intrinsic value.
Yeah,
that's right.
So you don't get confused. That's about, you're like, that one value here and one value. No, it is one value here and one value here. Their intrinsic value did not change. But we understand extrinsically, they're going to keep living, right? So it's beyond extrinsic, just so you understand. You're not actually assessing. You think you're assessing extrinsic. No, you're not. Because
potential
if you put
extrinsic
two beings, right? Just think, if you put an adult and you put a child, why are they different? Are they? The child's doing less, right? Adults like me, they may be producing stuff or whatever. They may be doing more extrinsically. The reason you cared about the child, Corey, is not because of extrinsic. It's systemic. You know that child will grow up. You know that every child that grows up needs to not have terror in their life, or they're going to be fucked up for the rest of their lives.
Right.
So the systemic harm, right, is the rest of your life fucked up.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So your care is for the potential in the future, the systemic value, not extrinsic. That child may have done nothing ever. 12 years old. How many things do you do at 12? You know what I'm saying? I'm just making a comment.
Yeah.
How many extrinsic things? This goes back to capitalism. Capitalists would go, this person's worth this. Damien's worth more because he's done something. But see, you knew the kid mattered, didn't you?
Yeah, for sure.
Not because of what they produced. So I totally reject this capitalist bullshit, inaccurate model that thinks that somehow you can just look at what you produce to understand value. The intrinsic value is already there, and you don't have to do extrinsic value to be of value or even the most value, because you said the kid is of high value. So think of this. So people are like, oh, I saved the child. I couldn't save all the adults, right? Everybody would go, you're a fucking hero.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you saved the child.
Right? Not, well, Corey, did you make sure that guy was pretty important in the community, and that guy taught at school, and that, woman here, she, does whatever, sings song, teaches singing or something. But see, you didn't need all that, did you? You didn't even think about all that, because all you're caring about is the systemic value of a child is a high value.
Right.
So you're making moral choices. So, but what is that, Corey? Is that justice or care? It's care.
Yeah.
That's not justice. That's care. And I told you before, that's why I feel so many moralities have a fucking problem, because they pick a black and white fallacy, either A or not A. And I'm like, sometimes how you're choosing is the wrong way. It's not that there is two choices. You can choose to do this or not, but how you're getting there is wrong. And so that's what I'm saying about, so justice would be to treat them both the same, in other words, right?
Right.
No different, Corey. Child, adult, no different. But in reality, we know that's horseshit. Right? And any real moral person will know that's horseshit. You should use care ethics in that point, and says that justice has to weigh out for the care.
Right. Yeah.
So that's why I was saying to you that it's like this lever where if you have maximum justice, you have almost zero care. And if you have maximum care, you almost have zero justice. And I don't mean like as in a general group. I'm talking about in a choice. I make a choice. A kid does something wrong, right? Adult did something wrong. Kid did something wrong. Both of them shot someone, right? The kid's 5 years old. The adult's 35 years old. I don't judge them the same. I don't go. That would be justice. Justice was you broke the law. You had equal punishment. But care ethics goes, yeah, but that shouldn't be the way we approach this. And that's the axiology that realizes there's the value. The systemic value of the child is what we need to care about, but that's care ethics. So that's why I told you axiological ethics is moving around these different ethics. And people are like, oh, pick a side. I'm like, that's not how morality works. That's sort of the problem I have too.
Right.
I feel like when you asked me before about psychology, I feel the same way with morality. They have one moral thing like scalpel, right? Like a doctor. Imagine if a doctor told you, the only tool I use, because it's the coolest, is a scalpel. Nothing else. We use a saw, suction, separator. No, a fucking scalpel. That's it.
That's it.
I'm damn good with it, though. You're like, yeah, but what about all the other shit? So I'm saying why it's as an axiologist, I'm like, that's stupid. You only use a scalpel. What? I use utilitarian ethics for everything. It's the best. I'm like, wow, wrong. Like, how do you make things? I'm like, well, I assess the values involved, and thus I try to pay attention to the intrinsic values that might be involved. Those are the most important. These are first you should care about. Then you care about the extrinsic values. But you do not forget there's also systemic values. And then you also don't forget that you always are making a moral choice that is between justice or equality, right? Which is a good thing, but not all the time, or care, which also realizes there's all these other issues. And that's why I said axiology doesn't choose one or the other. It chooses the appropriate one, or tries to, with the evidence available.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess in that case, like you'd say, like the 12-year-old, you have to take into account their age. But if you're looking at the 35-year-old, you still have to take into account like a variety of contexts, right? Like
right, but not age, right? Well,
not age. Yeah.
Well, so why age? First up, multiple reasons axiological. So age acts 12 years old, 5 years old. So 5 years old. So we know brains don't fully develop until like 18, 21, 25, whatever. These different stages, okay?
Yeah.
Right? Or maybe even older. But it's not one and done. That's also why I don't like people are like, well, 25, they're finally, thing. Yeah, but they were kind of that at 18. It's just not fully, but they're getting there. But actually, you can almost say till 30. Should we or 30 something, maybe, like you said, 35. But then no. Because that would also be like doing an IQ test to me. right? That would be like saying, oh, well, you don't have all the moral faculties, so I'll see you as a child. That's like saying that someone is not an adult because they don't have the same IQ Damien has. Well, what the fuck? See what I'm saying? Or at least how at Axiology I would see it. That is a improper assessment.
Okay.
Right? You get what I'm saying? Of why?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. It's one of those things like at a certain point, you still have to take into account like, maybe I don't know what you're saying.
Right. So I'm saying it's different, right? The child can't really think, and we do know they think in processes. So not only systemically do we have to care about the child's future. That's what we're doing in care ethics.
Right.
We're going, they haven't lived their life yet. That's offered as an argument, but really what that is you're saying care ethics. No, care ethics. No, care ethics. That's what you're saying. You're screaming in a sense. Because the justice is what should happen, but you realize that's inaccurate.
I just recently read something about like how different types of prisons have different effects, right? And how generally the prisons that actually treat people like humans and treat them with dignity and care are more effective at incorporating people back into society than the type that don't, right?
Which is so basically axiology. It's like, I don't know. Remember, what is the person? They're a dignity being. Why do we call them that, Corey? Because they have feelings, because they can get hurt. They can be emotional, but they can also be happy and love too, right? Those are also emotions. Both those are emotional hijackings. Love is an emotional hijacking. It's not a bad one, unless you let it become a bad one.
Right.
In a sense. So it's not that it hasn't or can't, but it is an emotional hijacking. We're actually not being rational. It's not that life, it's in axiology, you realize, but life doesn't have to be. We have to behave rationally. But thinking, we can't help it. We're going to have irrational, like, man, I want to kill that guy. Speaking of killing. So that thing, where the CEO got killed. So to me, if you understand it axiology-wise, right, accurately, you have a mass murderer get murdered, right? That's why nobody cares.
Right.
Because a mass murderer got murdered. So axiology, you understand, well, it is a mass murderer. So it's hard to feel a lot of, I don't know, sympathy, care.
Right. It's, as you say, like, without realizing it, people are doing the value judgments.
Oh, yes. In fact, I told you at the beginning, animals do it. We're not even fucking special. They've already done brain tests. There's a thing called, I think, answering the central question or something like that. But it's a neuroscientist that talks about how axiology is really how our brain works. And so it's not just that understanding it is good, but that is how we think anyway. So it'd be great if we can understand it.
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
Right? And start utilizing it instead of it working in a sense against us, because people are doing like this. This goes back to the statement that people sometimes don't understand, where Carl Jung said, thinking is hard, and that is why people judge. What he really meant is axiology requires thinking, and that's hard. And so people would rather just judge.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's it. That's in a sense what he kind of is saying. Axiology is hard. It says you have to slow down and have standards, Corey. You can't just do whatever the fuck comes in your head. Because emotionally, I'd love to kill all fucking CEOs. But ethically, I know I would not support killing anyone. I don't even support the person that got killed. Although it's hard not to feel some class solidarity and joy when a fucking capitalist is fucking has to suffer like like, they're scared to death. Motherfucker, I've been scared to death since I realized I lived under capitalism. I fucking lived in my car at -10. I don't know, for a fucking week. That was capitalism because I couldn't afford both a car and a place to live. So I had to make a choice. Place to live, can't get to work because I need the car. Well, I can live in the car and I can still get to work. Yeah, it's a fucked up capitalist bullshit system. Yeah, I've been afraid most of my life that I'm going to be on the fucking streets. Especially after when I got fucking injured. When I got injured and couldn't even drive the truck anymore, and sometimes can't even fucking walk, it makes me think, man, if like my wife died or something happened, I would be on the street and I would die.
Yeah.
And what a fucking waste. All because of capitalists. But that's also why I feel people are justifiably mad. That CEO sees it as just profits. Yeah, but that's blood money. It's like people have such a problem, especially with Congo diamonds, and they have no problem with capitalist wealth. And the fuck, what is it different?
Yeah,
no, fucking, especially fucking medical shit. So at least the other capitalists, they're just fucking us and keeping us at starvation levels. But the medical piece of bastards, those ones are actually letting us die. It's passive death in a sense, passive murder. But passive murder is still, I don't know, fucking murder. If you passively don't ever harm your kid, but just don't feed him and they fucking die of starvation, you've passively murdered them.
Right.
But still fucking murder.
Yeah. And so, what's the difference when society is doing it to entire groups of people?
It's not any different.
It's not any different.
Fucking is not, axiologically, that's what I'm saying. Axiologically, nothing has fucking changed.
Yeah.
Are not dignity beings involved? Are dignity beings being treated less than commodities? What the fuck?
Yeah, that's right.
Commodities are extrinsic value, and you're saying it's more important than an intrinsic value? Nah, bullshit.
Yeah, that's right. As soon as you start, like you say, like with the intrinsic value is the basis, and everything else is added.
Yes, right. But that is accurate, because once you realize that that's what you're saying, when you say, well, a person has human rights, you mean the person has human rights because they own themselves. And the reason that we even say that is because they're a dignity being, that they shouldn't be, harmed, and they have their own thoughts and their own beliefs and their own care or needs or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
And this is what somebody said before. Damien, you need to respect people's beliefs. No. Beliefs are a choice. I need to respect people's behavior. Right? That's the same shit I judge, too. As one person said, well, what do you think the difference between atheists and someone's religious? And I go, I judge them both the fucking same by their behavior.
Yeah, it depends what they do, right?
Yeah, that's their fucking behavior.
Yeah.
Because you basically...
I was just going to say, like we can disagree with somebody who believes a thing that we don't believe, but that doesn't make them like a bad person. It's their behavior.
Like, let's say someone accidentally does or doesn't understand philosophy and does logical fallacies. Should we think of them as a bad human because they do logical fallacies, or feel sorry because they don't think right?
Yeah,
Well, I'm just saying. So to me, religion is a logical fallacy. You are not thinking right. If you apply all of the axiology thing and you demand that everything is the way, you can't believe in non-things. What's the axiology value of God? It's a fucking story. That's what axiology would say. And if you look at, there's the new science, no, not new science. I think it's formal axiology, a victim or science being attacked or something. I can't remember now, but it's an article that someone who writes axiology wrote, and he explains in there that God is a thing people feel feelings. So extrinsic is doing something, right? The concept I'm talking about, how they use the concept extrinsically. It doesn't have any intrinsic value. So when they say dumb shit, they go, the most important thing in my entire life, even more than my kids or my own life, is God. I'm like, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. Axiology, that was terrible. You just said a concept is more important than a dignity being. What the shit are you talking about?
Yeah.
And that same thing goes the other way, though. If somebody has a concept of God and I don't, then what do they have, Corey? Axiological. They have an idea.
Yeah.
So, and that shouldn't make me think of them, the dignity being, differently, right?
Right.
No.
But then they're going to behave in a way based on that idea.
Oh, but I'll judge their behavior.
And then you will think of them differently, right?
Well, because I judge their behavior.
Yeah.
No, not because, but even I still won't. But I've never.
It's not the idea; it's the behavior. It's
right, but right. I mean, the behavior is not them. It's like I was saying about mental illness. It's not the person. A symptom is not the person. Cancer is not part of a human. It's a thing. Right. You're saying a person is not cancer. Like, even though I say sometimes I'm a sociopath, I feel like I experience sociopathic personality symptoms, or whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
Not. It's not that I, even that. So that's also why I know that it's bullshit. You can't have will. I don't know. Am I a piece of garbage? No. Well, how is that possible? I'm a sociopath, and both a sociopath and not a piece of garbage, right? So it's will, Corey, because I decided. That's why I fucking hate when they say this. I decided. I'm a piece of shit. When I was younger, I decided this. I realized I need to change. And I was like, I'm not even a bad person. I don't see myself. I was bad, but I was like, I don't even see myself as that bad of a person, inside. It's just I'm doing these bad behaviors. And I seem to, to not care about people and take them for granted, sociopath. Beat up people or, like one time I was so violent and aggressive that I'm not like that now, but I mean, it's still inside me. I could. Like someone shouldn't like punch me and then think I'm not going to be very violent. But my point is, I used to be so violent like all the time. It was just because I was letting myself be out of control. In fact, I was afraid of myself because I thought I was always going to be out of control. And I couldn't. I believed Sam Harris in a sense back then. I didn't even know Sam Harris, but I mean that concept that I didn't have will, that I was out of control. Here I was made into a sociopath because of extreme abuse as a child. And there's nothing the fuck I can do about it. The world's just going to have to suffer because of how I suffered. That's what I thought. The world's going to fucking suffer because of how I suffered. And then I started realizing that's a fucking shit way to be. So I'm just making more sociopaths? I'm just fucking hurting the world more?
Right.
Don't myself not like to be hurt?
Why which in a sense is the way that a lot of because a lot of people who have power have like what they call acquired sociopathy, right?
Right.
And they do perpetuate systems and harm in a way that creates more people like them that will be this kind of like uncaring concept of money is more important than individuals or human beings, kind of person.
And it was really hard for me to care, Corey, because I would go, why? Why does it matter to me? Fuck does it? When did these fucking people ever save me when I was starving? Who the fuck cared when I was getting beaten? I told the fucking judge. He goes, I don't see black and blue marks on you. And I'm like, really? I fucking told a fucking judge, a person in the court, and he didn't care. Well, your dad's a Christian. Who gives a fuck what the fuck his religion is? Yeah. When has that ever stopped someone from killing, from raping, from fucking torturing, from fucking, hurting kids? Never. It's never done that. Yeah. There's never been somehow, just because you're a Christian, no crime happens. That is bullshit.
Yeah.
But like I said, is that the right way response, Corey? I realized the exact opposite. The world is fucked. Someone better do some shit about this. And I thought, man, everybody doesn't see the way I see things. I might as well just do it myself. And so that's why, even though I don't like learning and reading and stuff as much as other people that have like a fixation, I have zero fixation of that. I really care. That's why, like I said, all of this, Corey, years, I've done this since 2006. All of it is care because I want to make a difference. I understand that my ideas are freeing and empowering. Once you grasp all this axiology and you make better moral decisions and you feel more confident about it and you're doing it more accurately and you're being a better caring individual, you will feel better and it will impact everyone around you.
Yep. Well, Damien, I appreciate you for today here. And we're, I guess, coming up on an hour. So I guess the remaining question is, where should people come to find more out about axiology and more about what you do?
Well, axiology, there's like whole like series of college books on it. I read 5 of them. They're super fucking hard. And unless you're super good at calculus and all kinds of like scientific shit, you probably want to read my stuff. Because I don't do that. Because I'm not good at math.
Yeah.
I'm a polymath, but I'm not good at math. I'm good at all kinds of shit, but not good at math. But anyways, where you can find me is at DamienMarieAtHope.com, or, just put Damien Marie AtHope probably in a search, and I got probably tons of shit will come up. But I also have an academic EDU, with my name, and I'm on Twitter, and I'm on, I'm not going to call it X for that dumb fuck.
No, it's still Twitter.
Fuck him. I don't give a shit. I'm just making a comment. Twitter. I didn't forget. I intentionally don't give a shit. Fuck him and his stupid. It's Twitter. Yeah. So Twitter and on Blue Sky. And Blue Sky, I've been doing really good recently. I'm almost at 10,000 people. So
nice.
But you know,
I'm enjoying Blue Sky these days. That's my favorite social media site.
Yeah, no, I like it a lot better than Twitter, really. But I still want to be there because, once again, I'm not there for myself. That's people understand. I'm not online because I need people. As a sociopath, I'm actually don't need people. The reason that I'm doing it is because people need me. It's different. And as one guy said, I'm arrogant because I feel that, and I go, I'm caring because I feel that, because I have a lot to offer.
Well, I appreciate it, Damien. I appreciate your time here today, and thanks to everybody in the chat. Sorry we didn't really get to your comments or questions, but I saw there was a good conversation going on there. And thanks everybody for being here.
Right on. Take care.
Have a good one. All right, folks, that's all for now. Thanks for watching or listening. Remember to share this show with your friends or on the social media site that you use the most. Thank you to everyone who supports this show on Patreon. I really appreciate it, and it helps me keep the power on. Thanks to my top patrons, Damien Marie AtHope, Some Random Geek, Justin Clark, Dan F. Smith, and Lisa Glass. And thank you to my new patrons. You can stay tuned for the list of patrons at the end to see your name listed. If you aren't a patron and want to contribute, you can do that at patreon.com/skepticalleftist, or you can send a one-time donation to buymeacoffee.com/skepticallefty. I also have a Substack where you can subscribe for free or you can donate per month. And lastly, you can get a paid subscription on Spotify that will give you the same access to bonus content and extra long episodes. If you can't contribute financially, then a like on YouTube or a 5-star rating and a review on Apple Podcasts or one of the podcast review sites like Podchaser would be great. If you want to find more from me, then make sure to check out the show notes for links to all my stuff, or check out my link tree. It's linktr.ee/skepticalleftist. That's where you can find all of my social media spaces and communities. You can also email me at mindofaskepticalleftist@gmail.com. Thanks so much for listening or watching. Make sure to leave a comment on the video, join your local org, print off some posters or pamphlets, and spread the propaganda.
Have to make people feel safe. When people feel safe, then they learn. If they do not feel safe, it's the hierarchy of needs. Yep. If they haven't had their needs met, they can't operate fully functioning. Why would you expect them to? So you need to help their needs, right? Yeah, that's why I say do kindness. You do kindness because then kindness makes safety. Safety aids in learning.